Alright, so the very last episode of Better Call Saul just finished airing a few hours ago, and really it tore me apart. It kind of destroyed me. I don't know if you can tell by my voice, but I'm kind of tired right now. But I just wanted to get some thoughts off my chest first and start this video so tomorrow I can wake up and finish it and pick up where I left off. As a follow-up to Season 5, which in my opinion was by far the best season of Better Call Saul, Season 6 really lived up to it and is even better than Season 5 in my opinion. All of the loose ends were tied up perfectly and creatively, nothing was super predictable. Season 6 of Better Call Saul also contains some of the most brutal moments in the Breaking Bad universe. I think my favorite thing about Better Call Saul, and you can apply this to Breaking Bad as well, is how good everyone is as an actor. Whoever is in charge of the casting needs a raise because every single character plays their part perfectly. Like Rhea Seehorn, I look at her and I see Kim Wexler. Bob Odenkirk, I look at him and I see Saul Goodman, I see Jimmy McGill. Even the one-off characters, the characters that aren't as important or just play a role for a couple episodes, I mean, their performances are ridiculous. I'm making a whole video here, so I don't want to go too into detail about all my thoughts, but that was what was on my mind after the conclusion of the show. On Monday, August 15th, 2022, TV fans everywhere said farewell to one of the greatest television series in recent history. Over the years, the Breaking Bad prequel exceeded expectations and created another enthralling drama, adding to the brilliance of the Breaking Bad universe. What keeps Better Call Saul so dramatic and captivating is its unpredictable writing that never fails to impress. So much of what Better Call Saul was is how it gets from point A to point B. We already know what happens in Breaking Bad. We already know what characters are in Breaking Bad. So the quality of Better Call Saul largely depended on how loose ends get tied up. For example, we know that neither Lalo Salamanca or Kim Wexler appear in Breaking Bad, so it's Better Call Saul's job to cross those bridges in a creative and entertaining fashion. It didn't just introduce new characters for no reason and provide us meaningless detail on Saul's life before he was Saul. Every single little thing that happens in the series proves to hold importance. Even some of the characters that are introduced in Breaking Bad are given new meaning and are presented in a new light in Better Call Saul. There's so many different layers to the storytelling and writing in each season, even if the end product wasn't always amazing. At this point, I trust Vince Gilligan and Peter Gould with my life. While watching Season 6, I took notes for the episodes I had extra commentary and thoughts on, so now I'm going to go through those episodes and share what I wrote down. If I didn't have any notes for an episode written down, I'm just going to skip over it. I'm not going to force it if I don't have anything extra to add. I thought the suspense in this episode was killer, especially when the Salamanca twins were looking for Nacho. The music that accompanied the scene kept me on the edge of my seat even more than I was already. And of course, if you're watching this, then you know what happened in the ending. Rest in peace, Nacho. I've really come to appreciate episodes like these. The slower pacing and calmer mood of them is a great contrast to the emphatic ending of episode 3. These episodes feature necessary story building and proved their importance as the season went on. The stillness of these portions of the series make you feel like you're in the eye of a storm. One of the craziest twists in all of TV. I'm definitely not the most well-equipped person to make an assertion like that, but I mean, it doesn't get more shocking and brutal than that ending. It has to be up there. The looks in Saul and Kim's faces and their reaction are scarily realistic, as if what transpired in front of them almost actually happened in real life. Also, Lalo has to be one of the most vicious and soulless antagonists in TV. You just get a hunch that as soon as he pulled that gun out and told Howard, "No, take your time," that he already knew what he was going to do. You knew that he had already made his mind up. The ending of episode 7 is one of the most disturbing scenes in all of the Breaking Bad universe. Episode 8 starts with a stark contrast visually compared to the ending of episode 7. We get a peaceful shot of waves crashing on a shore alongside some classical music playing from an abandoned car. We later find out that was how Howard's death was framed. But shortly after that, we're brought back to reality. Lalo is still in Saul and Kim's apartment with Howard's dead, soulless body laying on the ground right in front of them. The acting Bob Odenkirk and Rhea Seehorn given this scene is astounding. Acting-wise, I don't see what possible complaints anybody could have with those two especially. Later in the episode, Gus and his men visit an old place we recognize from Breaking Bad, the laundromat where Mike took Walter planning to kill him, which ended up being called off after Jesse killed Gale. Instead, this time around, it's Lalo who's in control. Lalo shoots all of Gus's men dead, and now Lalo has Gus dead to rights. This is one of the only times in the Breaking Bad universe where we see any sort of vulnerability from Gus. It feels wrong almost to see Gus in such a powerless position. This circumstance, however, sets up for an epic final scene between Lalo and Gus. Lalo pushes Gus around, recording him on a video camera, and then Gus takes Lalo downstairs to the lab they've been building underground. This would end up being Lalo's demise, because Gus would defeat him in a gunfight. Lalo takes his last breaths with a faint smile on his face, laughing, which in my opinion is the only appropriate way for him to go out. It's so fitting for Lalo as a character. Going into this episode knowing that there'd still be 4 more or so episodes left, it felt like we were getting to the end of the Better Call Saul timeline. So for that reason, I had a hunch that something was going to happen with Kim this episode, because we know she doesn't appear in Breaking Bad. And I was right. Kim broke up with Saul and packed her bags, which made for one of the most depressing and sad scenes in the entire series. If that wasn't heartbreaking enough, in the same episode Mike informs Nacho's dad that his son is dead. HHM also held a service for Howard, where Saul and Kim essentially gaslighted Howard's widow into thinking he actually had a drug addiction. It was this same episode where I realized every initial of HHM had passed away. All around, one of the heaviest episodes of the Breaking Bad universe. In episode 10, we're placed in a timeline far ahead of where Better Call Saul left us at. We're at a point in the future where Saul Goodman is no more, only Gene Takovich exists. Gene rallies a group of 2 others to carry out a robbery of the mall that Gene works at. While trying to distract a police officer Gene had befriended from looking at the cameras, Gene puts on a sob show about how he has no one in his life. Of course, this is mainly theater, but the only reason I'm bringing this up is because maybe there is actually some truth to it. Gene lives all alone, and he clearly misses his old life of being Saul Goodman. That's why he's carrying out a new mini robbery with a new group. Just something I wanted to add, just some food for thought. I don't have much to say about this episode, not because it was bad by any means, but I feel like it's almost necessary for me to talk about it because it's the first time we see Walter and Jesse in Better Call Saul. I thought their inclusion was pretty clever. It definitely didn't feel forced or unnecessary or anything like that. I feel like their association with Saul is there to represent how deep into the game Saul has gotten since Kim left him. Episode 12 does a stellar job laying the groundwork for an amazing finale. This is one of the only times in the show we get to see Kim in her new life, and it seems really mundane and vanilla. I'm pretty sure Vince Gilligan and Peter Gould, along with the other people who worked on this episode, wanted to drive that point home, including scenes where Kim's talking with other middle-aged suburban white women about things like mayonnaise and tuna salad. Saul gives Kim a call for the first time in 6 years, and their conversation really amounts to nothing in the end, which is pretty sad in my opinion. One of the only things and the last thing Kim tells Saul is, "I'm glad you're alive," and that's really it. A pretty depressing moment in the episode. Kim later goes to Howard Hamlin's widow, Cheryl, and gives her a letter detailing what actually happened surrounding his death. We as an audience know that Howard was a victim of being in the wrong place at the wrong time, but the characters in the show, outside of Saul and Kim, think that Howard died due to a spiraling drug addiction. Cheryl threatens to sue Kim, but that's where the Howard subplot ends. It could have been left alone, but this addition went over well, I'd say. At the very end of the episode, Saul, going as Gene now, has his real identity revealed by Marion, an old woman he befriended in his new life. All of this sets up for a killer finale. The finale starts with a flashback scene of when Saul and Mike were in the desert. This sets up a theme in the episode of time travel, because throughout it, Saul asks Mike and Walter what they'd do if they had a time machine. This theme reasserts itself later in the episode when a book with time machine in the title appears in another flashback scene between Saul, Jimmy at the time, and his brother Chuck. I'm still not quite sure what the time machine theme represents, but in a convo with my friend, he said that the scene between Jimmy and Chuck was where Jimmy would go if he had a time machine, and I think it's a decent theory. Marie Schrader makes an appearance after Saul is caught by the police and is in detainment. I think Marie's presence represents the ruins Breaking Bad left her and her family in. Hank is dead, Walter is dead, everybody finds out Walter was Heisenberg and was cooking meth for an astronomical amount of money, and Walter and Hank's families are left with a lifetime's worth of trauma to sort out. During a conversation between Saul and Marie, Saul mentions how he has nobody, how he has nothing. That phrase reminded me of an earlier episode in the season when Saul had a pretend breakdown to distract a cop he befriended, where he mentioned the same exact thing. Saul saying this now to Marie kind of backed up the suspicion I originally had, that even though Saul was putting on a show, what he was saying was still true to an extent. Somehow, Saul and his lawyer worked out a deal where Saul would only have to be in jail for 7 years, but later in court, Saul purposely shoots himself in the foot. He admits to every wrongdoing he was accused of and more. He says, "Walter White couldn't have done it without me." During his rant, he also denounces the name Saul Goodman, which I believe alludes to the title of the episode, Saul Gone. The episode, season, and series ends in the only way appropriate. Saul and Kim smoking a cigarette together like old times. And then, one last scene between Saul and Kim where they exchange looks later, the credits roll and the series is over. This episode had a hugely profound effect on me. I felt like my mood was permanently hampered after watching it. For the next hours and days, I just felt really down. That's not something that's out of the ordinary for me, but that's just how hard the episode hit me. In my opinion, it's one of the best episodes in the Breaking Bad universe, maybe of all TV in general too. What can I say? I'm a sucker for depressing and sadistic media. Wrapping things up now, Season 6 is easily the best season of Better Call Saul in my opinion. The stakes and suspense were at an all-time high. The season had really high highs and really low lows mood-wise. In the whole season, there was barely a dull moment. Every loose end was tied up perfectly. Going into the season, Better Call Saul's quality as a show hinged on it heavily. If Season 6 disappointed, I maybe would have slotted Better Call Saul in a low B tier or mid to high C tier. But now I can confidently say that Better Call Saul is an easy A tier show, without a shadow of a doubt. You really couldn't have asked more from a prequel spin-off show. Thank you to Vince Gilligan, Peter Gould, and the entire cast and crew for giving us entertainment that spanned over 14 years and that will be remembered forever. You guys have created something that's truly special. And yep, that is it for me. If you liked this video, if you enjoyed my analysis, then please leave a like, subscribe if you want. I cover music and movies too. This is my first time actually doing a video on a TV show. So as always, support is greatly appreciated. And until next time, I'll see you soon. You can't come my way. Knowing me, I never like photos.